I'm here with Dan, an Australian who just successfully applied for Paraguayan residency. And today, Dan is going to reveal the whole process he went through, the easy things, some of the hurdles, and hopefully you'll be able to gain a lot of good information from this video and Dan's experience. Dan, thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me, Gerald. Yeah, so I obviously started by contacting yourself, and we had a little bit of an online catch up. Did we do that in video call or voice call? I can't remember.
Just voice.
That's right. So I was happy to just have some transparency on your website and see the pricing, so I had a feeling or an understanding of what I was up for. And you've been very straightforward with things like costs and timing, which I appreciate. I then needed to gather my documents, obviously from Australia. I don't live there anymore, but I needed to get my birth certificate, my police check, and then get it. Is it apostilled? Is that the word? Apostolized? Whatever the word is. That was a challenge. So the process of retrieving those documents in Australia, you do it online. It's not too difficult. Everything's quite digitized these days. But then receiving them in the mail, given that we have a 90-day window from when the document is created to when Paraguay will accept it, it took about 6 weeks for mine to arrive. Was it 6 weeks? 4 to 6? It wasn't speedy. And then when I received them, to get a meeting in Australia to get them apostilled was going to be another 4 weeks. So I would have been out of time. So I had to think outside the box, and I looked for Australian embassies in other countries. And then in Malaysia, where I have an apartment, I was able to get an appointment in 2 days. So I jumped on a plane, went to Malaysia, got it done 2 days later. And then with that documentation, I was able to make my plans with you guys and get on down here. And I think I was in Europe at the time. I was in Europe at the time. So I came via Panama, and it's long flights, but I'm used to that from Australia, so everything's long, so it's not an issue. And the only issue for me was because of my lack of understanding of Spanish on Avianca Airlines, which I do enjoy flying. It's a Colombian airline. The rules must be different because in Australia and America, air hostesses are air hostesses, but in Colombia, air hostesses are amazing. So I thoroughly enjoy it. So I was sitting up the front of the plane, really enjoying my time. The flight, it felt like it went a little bit longer than normal. It is what it is. They were doing updates in English and Spanish when we boarded and when we took off, but then they just reverted to Spanish for the rest of the flight. Had a really comfortable flight. We landed and the door didn't open, and the guys on the ground staff were just sort of cruising around having smoko, and I just was really confused. And an hour went by, 2 hours went by, and I'm now getting a little bit upset at the hostesses saying, why haven't we been let off the plane? Other planes were landing and refueling and then leaving, and it was all very confusing. By the third hour, after me making some inquiries and not getting anywhere, they told me that we were in Argentina. I was like, okay, I really need to learn Spanish. And they told everyone on the plane, it's just I was the dumb one who didn't get it. So there was fog in Paraguay. We couldn't land, and we were in Argentina waiting to get fuel, and there was a line. There was a process underway. So I have to apologize to Jessie, who was waiting at the airport at 5 o'clock in the morning to pick me up, and she waited for 3 hours without communication from me because
he's not coming. Dan's not coming.
Because I had an eSIM all prepared, and I'd switched it on. I'm on the ground trying to contact her, but unknown to me, I was in Argentina, not Paraguay, so my eSIM for Paraguay wasn't working. And when I finally discovered that 3 hours later, I switched over to my Australian SIM, and we managed to communicate. Anyway, it wasn't a drama. It was still a comfortable flight. Everyone was friendly. It was kind of on me that I just need to learn some Spanish.
That was quite an unusual experience. Yes. Like, you were the first client who went for this. No kidding. We didn't have a single client who landed in Argentina and waited for like 3 hours before leaving for Paraguay. That's interesting. Now, you made it to Paraguay.
Yep.
It's better late than never.
Absolutely.
And like, talk to us about the process of applying for residency here. What was it like? The time frame and just some of the things you had to do here before you applied for residency.
Sure. So basically, when all the documents are ready, you guys need my physical documents. So I obviously brought them with me, my passport. So it's just a number of meetings. I've had 3 meetings in total, and basically visiting the government offices and the police where they're confirming your identity. So it's all just bureaucratic stuff, a little bit of sitting around waiting in lines. And I bumped into a lot of Aussies, Kiwis, British, Canadians, Americans, and Germans doing the same thing as me. And it was fascinating having so many conversations, and they're all of a similar mindset of why they're coming here. So that was fascinating. But I used the time here to basically work on my business from my Airbnb. There's some really wide selection of high quality apartments, Airbnb options with swimming pools and gyms. Everything's got security. It's all quite nice. I'm in an area of town where it's very short walk to some exceptionally high quality supermarkets. If you're from Australia and you know Harris Farm, which is like where we get the really good high quality meats and produce, it seems like all the supermarkets in this area of Asuncion that I'm in, they're like the equivalent of a Harris Farm, but the cost for a typical shop is about 1/5 of what you would pay at Harris Farm. But the quality, I would say, of the meats is better. It's incredible. If you enjoy meat, this place is fantastic. So yeah, day one, obviously a weekday, we did our first checks with the police documents. I then had to wait about a week, about 5 business days. So I think it was the next week when we did the second meeting. And then today, a few days after that, has been the third and final, which is giving power of attorney to have some of my documents collected on my behalf when they are ready. And so total business days, it's probably been about, what is this, 8 business days maybe? What day is it today?
It's first day, I believe.
9 business days. Okay. So yeah, I think if you allow 2 weeks, be productive, go and sample some of the fantastic restaurants that are in town, go swimming because it's warm here during the days. You can be productive with your time.
Yeah, absolutely. Talk to us a little bit about your dining experience here, which you consider to be one of the best you've ever had.
Seriously.
Or possibly the best,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And you talked to me about the value you're getting here for your money, right?
Yep.
And we did the math, and hopefully my calculations are correct, but you're probably getting 18 to 20 cents, Aussie cents on the dollar here.
Yep.
Is that correct? If you can give us some comparisons related to dining between the two countries.
Yeah, so the dining here is fantastic. Look, that was the wonderful surprise. I've only dined at, I guess, what you would refer to as like the top class restaurants. So many of the waiters spoke English, or at least had a bit of a handle on English. They were super helpful. Like, I've just come from France where food's great, but they're just when they serve. They're so weird. Like, you're trying to pay the bill and it's like a competition to get their attention. But then you go and spend 300 euros. And so to have that experience, but Australia, they're not like that. They're very friendly, but you pay for the produce.
All Europeans, man. Never changes.
I mean, the French are just unique. I love them. If you're French, please don't take any offense. I know it's your culture, but it's just weird. And the experience of the dining, I can relate it to a mixture of Bali, Colombia, Europe, and Australia. And what I mean by that is they're putting a great deal of effort into the design and the decor of their restaurants, like you see in Bali. And the quality of the food is what you would expect in Australia. I saw some really good meats in Colombia. That's why I raised Colombia. And they have some amazing design. And so if you're looking for an experience that you're going to remember in some of these restaurants that I've now tried, it really is that. It's a top class dining experience with incredible food, great for a date or for a family or just going out with your mates, and you are paying, I've had very nice dinners, which I would expect to pay between $400 to $600 Australian dollars for, and they've cost me, that's a dinner for 2 with alcohol, and that they've cost me between $80 and $100 Australian dollars.
Not bad. It's almost a joke, right?
I can't even get an Uber to the restaurant for that price in Sydney.
I believe you. And I'm not sure if you have watched the videos we did with Nico last week or 2 weeks ago. And he was referring to exactly the same issues when it comes to dining in French Quebec, Canada, where he was talking about, spending crazy money, probably like double or 3 times what he's paying here. So, and where I live in southern Texas, I mean, the food is like Mexican, and that's usually the only food that I eat.
Yep.
But to have this kind of, like you say, fine dining experience here, like a 5-star fine dining experience in Texas, it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
It just doesn't exist,
I feel sorry. I feel sorry for the single 23 to 27-year-old guys in Western countries now, where women expect to take them out on dates. And if he's just earning 50 to 70 grand, what is he supposed to do? Because there's not many options that, the culture is that the man pays, and we all accept that, and that's fine, and that's what we are very happy to do. But if you're a young guy and you're supposed to somehow buy a house and entertain women in the dating scene even on 100 grand, there's no way you're going to be able to do it in the West. And I see all these countries because I travel there for my work. So to be able to come to countries like this where the women are, to be fair, more educated a lot of the time.
Right.
Like they've got multiple degrees. They're doing they're much more sort of just mellow family kind of vibes and incredibly beautiful. And then you go and, I just think the opportunities for young blokes in the West are diminishing.
I think if you want to come here and enjoy the dating benefits, there's no shortage of high-quality women here. There is no shortage.
They ask you for your phone number. It's happened to me twice in 1 week in random locations because they heard me speaking English, literally approached me at the gym and at the swimming pool, sparked up a conversation and asked for my number. Just normal people, like one was a real estate agent, and that doesn't happen in Sydney.
No. And I can tell you, it also does not happen in Europe, and neither does it happen in the US. Yeah. So, no, we're in the same boat. Do you have any final suggestions for our audience watching this video where you would say, before you come to Paraguay, pay attention to these few things, maybe?
Sure. Pay attention. If you're going to come through certain countries in South America, you got to have vaccines. So if you are going to do a stop off, just pay attention to that. So check up on your vaccine history. Do make sure that you've got money in the bank, because there might be delays. Things may not go to plan. Don't just come here and think that it's going to be done in a couple of days. I've seen on some other YouTube channels people sort of saying you can do it in 2 and 3 days. That's not realistic. Allow the time, enjoy your time here, and I think that's probably how you get the most benefits. But if you're Australian specifically, do pay attention for the amount of time that is going to be required to get your documents apostilled. So whether you do a stop off in another country and get the meeting booked earlier, like I did, or whether you can somehow book the meeting or book a couple of meetings in advance and just hope that your paperwork arrives before your meeting, that might be another solution. Otherwise, I don't think it's going to work. If you just receive your paperwork and expect to get a meeting in Sydney and get it apostilled, you're going to run out of time.
Well, thank you so much for your time and sharing this valuable information with us today. I appreciate it. If you're interested in obtaining Paraguayan residency, please contact us. You should see our website displayed on the screen. Book a consultation with me personally. I will advise you on how you can get started working with us and applying for residency in one of the best countries in the 21st century, I'd say, where you can pay little to no taxes. And if you do it right, no taxes are very possible. Thank you for watching. Thank you again, Dan, for your time. I really appreciate it. And I hope you enjoy your time in Paraguay.
Thank you. I certainly am, and continue to do more.
Thank you, guys. We'll see you on the next one.